Hey guys, we're with Camel ADV. We've got our Aprilia Tuareg 660 here, and finally, about time, we have our skid plate for it. It's a big, beefy skid plate. It is 3/16, so just shy of 5mm thick, welded inside and out. Very stout unit. We have tested the shit out of this thing. You're gonna love it, I'm sure of it. So like a lot of new adventure bikes, the Tuareg is a stressed member type frame, which means that the motor is an integral part of the frame. There are no rails that run underneath it. So mounting it can be really tricky, getting it strong enough and not damaging the motor if you take a big hit. We have used a subframe crumple zone kind of idea. We've used the same style setup on the Harley Pan America skid plate that we make, and it has performed extremely well. That's a much heavier bike with lower ground clearance, so when it hits stuff, it really hits it, and we're super happy with the way that this one has turned out. The install is quite straightforward, probably take you, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour if you're at a leisurely pace. No special tools, no permanent modifications to the bike. It will fit your bike if you have no crash bars, if you have the OEM Aprilia crash bars. We have checked it with the Hepco Becker as well as the Heeds. So there's different spacers and different bracket arrangements depending on which crash bar system you have. So we're gonna go through the OEM crash bar setup and the no crash bar setup on our website. There will be some PDFs there that have photos and a description on how to install this plate if you have different crash bar systems. So this is the subframe mount. So these guys go to the sump on the motor. This goes to the back of the frame. If you take a big hit, the skid plate is mounted to these sections, and if you take a big hit, these guys will crumple and it doesn't overload the sump bolts, and then this is at the back. We've got a heat shield for the catalytic converter. Catalytic converter on this bike's right here, and it cranks a ton of heat into your foot and into your leg, and is a bit of a burn hazard if it's left open. So we want to make sure that that was covered. So that's the heat shield. We've got some blue Loctite here. We've got the fasteners here. This stuff comes with either setup, and then there's two different bracket arrangements. So if you have the OEM crash bars, you're going to get these two brackets, these two bolts and spacers. If you have no crash bars or Heed or Hepco Becker, you're going to get this arrangement here. As we get more intel on different crash bars, we will be including or have available different spacers in the kit so that you can make the skid plate work with those crash bars. So first order of business, we're going to take the original skid plate off. There's only 5 bolts that hold it on, and then there's some brackets underneath it. Pop that out, just slide this ahead. A couple of clips behind it. So we've got these 2 bolts here, and then we've got these 2 here. So then we're going to remove this plate here and this one at the back. So with our subframe mounting plate here, this is the back, this is the front. It's going to be easiest to start at the back. There's some spacers that go on here and some bolts that come down from the top. And you want to make sure that you get that on first, and then we can swing this up and we can get the front 4 bolts. But you can see there's a bolt hole here and one here. And we're going to take the hex bolts that are in the kit, and we're going to drop them in from the top, like so. And this guy's going to come up here, and we've got some 1/8" thick spacers that are going to go on the bolt first. And if you have someone that can give you a hand with this, it's best, because this is a bit tricky, to get this all started at the same time. So I'm just pushing back on the bracket a little bit here to keep the bolt from turning so I can get this nut started like that. And then I can pull that down, come to the other side. So it'd be easier to do if I wasn't trying to keep myself out of the camera shot. There we go. Like so. And again, a little bit of pressure to the back to keep the bolt from turning. And get that started. Beauty. So we're going to come up here. We've got the charcoal canister. Take the other pair of 1/8" spacers and put them between our mount and then we're going to take some of these bolts. So these are M8 by 25 socket head caps. And there's 4 of them. So in your kit, we've included some blue Loctite. Just put a drop on. So the spacers are in there. We're going to get these bolts started. So we're up like that and into the threaded hole. It's a little bit of jiggling to get these guys started. There's a couple different angles going on here. So there might be some swearing when you're doing it. I apologize. It's worth it in the end, I promise. So I get all this stuff started here. And then I'm going to come to the front, and we've got some 1/4" spacers or 6 mil. I'm going to slide them in. Get these started. When you get this in here, you want to make sure that these guys are all kind of loose. They have some wiggle room. And then we're going to tighten the back first. Because of the angle here, when you tighten this, it can slide a little bit, which is what we want. We need it to center itself. So we're going to come back here. We're going to grab that bolt head with a wrench, and then we're going to tighten these with a ratchet. And with those guys snugged up, we can come and tighten the fronts here. We've got the subframe plate installed. That's the trickiest part. It is a bit of a pain in the ass, to be fair. Getting these guys started and then get everything wiggling to get these other 4 going. Can be a bit of a challenge, but you don't have to take it off when you need an oil change. There's the hole here for the drain plug, and then of course the filter on the front. So you put it on once, you're done, you'll be glad you did. So on the bottom of the skid plate, there are a bunch of holes. Some of them are for us when we do our jig work, when we weld. These bigger ones here help us get everything aligned. So there's nothing goes in there. The countersunk holes here are for mounting the skid plate to our subframe plate. The big holes give you access to the 6 bolts that you just put in the subframe plate. This is for an optional linkage guard protector. So these are countersunk M6 bolts. All of the M6 bolts that are on the bottom are for an optional UHNW slip liner that covers the entire bottom of the bike, or the entire bottom of the skid plate, I should say. So if you're a super hardcore off-road dude, slamming into rocks and things, that is going to be what you want. It will be available in the future. We didn't get them back from the shop that cuts them for us. They're out of material, so we're still waiting on those. So didn't want to hold up the launch of the skid plate any longer. It's been entirely too long, but it will cover this front section along here and out the back for the linkage. We're gonna go put this up under the bike with the countersunk bolts, and then we can wrap this up. So we're going to grab these here. These are M8 by 16s. So we've got the 4 holes here with the embedded PEM nuts, and that's what we're going to put these guys into to hold the skid plate on. Again, Loctite on these guys. It is so freaking hot in the shop here today. I am sweating like crazy. It's like 11 o'clock at night because I tried to do this during the day and it was awful. So came back tonight to get this done when it's a little cooler. So we're gonna leave those bottom bolts a little bit loose so we've got some wiggle, and we're gonna put the front brackets on right now. So if you're not using any crash bars, this is the set you're gonna order. It's got a 90 mil bolt and 75 mil. We've got 2 M10 flat washers, and with no crash bars, you're going to use the longest spacers included in the kit here. So we're gonna come up here, we're gonna take this bolt out. So the brackets are going to go on here like this. We're going to take our bolts here first, our M6s with flat washers and nylocks. On the right hand side of the bike, we've got a 32 mil spacer and 75 mil bolt. So get that not totally tightened, just mostly, and then we'll grab the bolts here. So again, we're going to take this front engine mount out. Add a bit of Loctite on the bolt here. I'm going to take our M6 bolts, slide them through, flats and nylocks on the back. And we can torque this guy up and come down and do the M6s. And with that stuff all snugged up, we can come to the bottom and then we can get these 4 done. So you can see these holes here, you've got access to the bolts that are in the subframe plate, just in case you do need to tighten those. And then same at the back here, you can get in to tighten those if you need. So we've got the spacer here with this gap because the crash bars are going to mount in here. So then we're just going to stack in different like spacers on top of whatever spacers included with your crash bar, plus the thickness of the mounting bracket for the bar. And then we install the appropriate length spacer here. So that's why the kit comes with a bunch of different length spacers. So we've got the catalytic converter here. I didn't want to leave this open. This gets super hot, cranks out a bunch of heat. It just looks like a bit of a burn hazard here, and there's a lot of heat that comes off into your leg. So we made a heat shield for it. So we've got some M6 by 16 bolts here. The OEM crash bars are pretty stout. They're not very big, but they're really beefy and they're solid. There's no give in them. They're very well braced, and I'm actually pretty impressed with them. The way they mount is a little bit different than the aftermarket crash bars. So the brackets that we include, spacers, bolts are different. So you will need to specify if you're going to use the OEM Aprilia crash bars. So all the aftermarket stuff has just got a flat plate that comes across here and then a tube attaches to it. But these guys have this really long spud here. So we need to give you different mounting brackets. So just make sure that you select the right kit when you're ordering. So that kit comes with two brackets that look pretty similar to the ones that we had with the other one, but they've got two small spacers here, and then they've got M10 by 110 bolts, so substantially longer. So this bracket, because this sticks out as far as it does, this bracket is actually in this orientation. The top is wider than the bottom. That's the way it needs to be to work. We're going to take the bolt, the lower bolt here that holds these guys on, take it out, put our spacer inside here, and then I'm going to take the M10 by 110, put some Loctite on it. We're going to take our bracket, put it behind the skid plate here, and then slide our bolt in. And we can get our M6 bolts, flats, and nylock started as well. We just want to get these guys snugged up to about 90%. We still want to be able to move this bracket, and then we're going to torque up the M10 bolt here. And then we can come down and tighten these. And then we go to the other side. So same thing, we're going to take that factory bolt out, put our spacer in, take our plate here, get our M6s started. Again, a little bit of Loctite. So just keep in mind that this bracket does flare to the outside with this particular crash bar system. That's how you install the Camel ADV Gut Guard on the Aprilia Tuareg with no crash bars or the OEM crash bars. So if you go to our website and you go into the info section and then you go down to installation, and you can scroll down and you can see links to all the install videos. We will have some PDFs on that page that will go over the installation of the skid plate with heat crash bars, Hepco Becker, and other ones as we get them in. As soon as we know the spacer length and the orientation of everything, we will get that information on the website. As always, if you have any questions, info@camel-adv.com. Thanks for watching. So a skid plate will take most of its abuse in this leading edge here from maybe 2 inches up all through the corner here. This is a wide spot, so you're going to be smacking stuff on the trail. So kind of in this area here, you don't generally take stuff right down the middle because of course the tire, you have to ride over it, which lifts the skid plate up and over. But if you're going to hit rocks and stumps and things, it's going to be in this general area here. And of course, if you come up, if you wheelie onto something or hit a ledge, then you can case the bike out so you're coming straight down. So take a lot of hits in here, which is why we went with the arrangement that we did for the mounting. Crumpled as expected. Did exactly what it was supposed to do. Absorb the energy so that you don't crack the sump. I have complete confidence in the skid plate, and you should too. Completely unrelated to the install video, I just want to point this out so I don't get crushed in the comment section. This is not rust all over my chain. This is dust from Moab. I just haven't cleaned it off. Some of you guys are absolutely savage in the comments.